Hi everyone, my name's Emma Monaghan and I'm head teacher at Gillas Lane Primary Academy, part of the Aim High Academy Trust. We're only a small school, we've only got 140 children on roll, but we serve one of the most deprived areas in Sunderland. 70% of our children are entitled to free school meals, and we admit children throughout the year from the nearby refuge. Being an Opal school means that we can offer a therapeutic approach to play, which all children have access to every day. And it's one of the things that I'm most proud of about our school. And again, thanks. Look at that blue sky and look at that green grass. We have loads of photographs like this of Opal, looking picture perfect in the summer sunshine. That's when Opal is at its easiest. Not particularly its best, but definitely its easiest. But that's not what I'm going to share with you today. Today, I'm going to talk about dirty uniforms, complaining parents, the Great British Rain, cold and wet lunchtime staff, and an unholy amount of mud. Let's start with the lunchtime staff. You might have heard of the A team, and at Gillas Lane, we've got the play team. There are no minimum supervision ratios for lunchtimes, but advice is 1 to 30 for reception and Key Stage 1 and 1 to 75 for Key Stage 2. We have a minimum of 4 lunchtime staff, with a HLTA and a TA being out for some of the week, some of the time. Look at our super smiley team. Those smiles were not always there. When we first introduced Opal, those smiles were most definitely upside down. The biggest change for the play team was that we made a commitment to being out in all weathers. Cold and wet lunchtime supervisors are not the friendliest of folk. They always used to make me think of this Peter Kay sketch, everybody in, it's spitting. The team had been used to indoor playtimes if there was the slightest hint of rain, so we had to change the culture. We did this through senior staff being out in the rain and leading by example. We held regular meetings to show that we valued their opinions. We did consider buying the staff suitable outdoor coats and footwear, but we were discouraged from doing this by our HR department, who had concerns that this could set a costly precedent. After discussions with the play team, they were happy to wear their own warm coats and footwear. The key is definitely communication, lots and lots of it. The next thing that became abundantly clear was that the children needed suitable wet weather clothing. Now, I've read about other schools where parents have been asked to send in furry lined waterproof suits. Now, as a school who's looked extensively at poverty proofing, that is something we could not do. We didn't want Opal to become an inclusion issue where children whose families could afford to buy wellies were allowed to have all the fun, so we had to get creative. We asked for all children who had wellies to bring a pair in. We were then able to see who didn't have a pair and find out what size they were. We worked with our local church to provide a uniform hub for our families, and we approached them to ask if they would be able to support with our wellie shortage, and they did. They supplied us with a big batch of used wellies and a smaller batch of brand new wellies that they'd purchased with their community funding. We also put in a bid to the community chest for a wellie shed, and as you can see, we were successful. We also worked closely with the Sir Tom Cowie Charitable Trust, who provided us with 50 warm waterproof coats from the Coats for Kids charity. These are kept at school and children can access them when needed. This has been essential as a number of our children don't have seasonally appropriate coats. There are also grants to be had out there. We made a successful application to Learning Through Landscapes and were awarded £500 worth of waterproof trousers and jackets. We also work with a company called Thrills and Skills for Life, and the owner, Chris Hall, is Horton's answer to Bear Grylls. He used to work for the army, and when we started our Opal adventure, he offered us a box of 50 Gurkha uniforms. And as Ingrid knows, we accept anything but blows. So these are now a staple of our Opal lunchtimes. They're the perfect fit for our Key Stage 2 gang, and we just cut a length off the trousers and the sleeves so our littlies are able to use them too. We do have to think carefully about the resources we are using in inclement weather and how to ensure our resources are stored so the weather doesn't affect them. We have tyre sand pits dotted around the site, and if it's raining or forecast rain, children lay a sheet of MDF on top of them with a tyre on top to stop the sand becoming waterlogged. We swap out our fabrics for shower curtains for our den building in the rain, and we can't guarantee the driest of experiences, but just look at those faces. It is impossible to talk about playing out in all weather without mentioning mud. We first started Opal in September, and we were lulled into a false sense of security. When the children were wearing wellies and using the field, we could not believe the amount of mud that was being brought into school. I think I just stood in the corridor looking aghast for 10 minutes, wondering what on earth I'd signed up to. We then met as a staff and took a muddy step back. The bottom line was our corridors have wiped clean flooring. They're not white carpets. We met with the player team and formulated a plan. Children were to stamp their feet on the way back into school to get the thick of the mud off. We then bought each class a dustpan and brush and appointed mud monitors in each class. These children have 5 minutes after lunch to sweep up the mud from the area outside of their classrooms. And yes, we do still have patches of mud in the corridor sometimes, but as a school, we were determined not to sacrifice the massive benefits of Opal on the altar of a clean floor. The sheer amount of play value from mud was another reason why we knew we had to get this right for our families. Children coming home with a muddy uniform was causing quite a few interesting conversations with parents. I had one parent tell me that if I could not guarantee her child would not come home covered in mud, would have to keep him in at lunchtime. For a lot of our families, it comes down to this. They can either buy food for tea or put some electricity on the car to put the washer on. And we have to acknowledge that the extra cost of buying washing powder, putting the washer on and drying the clothes is really prohibitive. This comes back to appropriate clothing and how school will provide that when parents can't. Now, I couldn't resist the opportunity to tell you about our slide. Ingrid once told me it was the best slide in the Northeast. Perhaps she tells all her schools that I don't know. But we're really lucky that our site has some banks. So with the addition of a massive sheet of tarpaulin, we created our most used piece of Opal equipment, our hill slide. Now, I know that I'm cheating here and showing you a blue sky, green grass photograph of the slide, but look at those faces, man. And actually, our slide is one of the things that gets better when it's wetter. The children fly down there when it's raining and they're wearing waterproofs. That slide became so popular, we installed Best Slide in the Northeast version 2.0. This is a narrower but steeper version of the original. And you can see that the children use a ship's rope to help them get back up the bank. And they can then slide down. This is the tame version. And this is the head first version, much more fun. I've got a really short clip now to show you, which is going to sum up the theme of playing out in all weathers. And once again, our slide is the star of the show.
Don't think that video transferred over, because then we're going to have to imagine the screams.
Can we click play? It should be on the PowerPoint. There should be a little button that says play.
It's on Google Slides, so that it isn't there because you didn't.
Oh no,
sorry, Emma.
That's a real shame. That's our children having fun in the sun, sliding down our water slide, but then also coming down that very same slide in sledges in the winter. So we've got fun in the sun and also having a blast in the snow. So I think that I need to go back to Peter and tell him that our play team now shout, "It's spitting! Everybody out!"